Lost generation. I apologize ahead of time. I had to do this on my tablet, having some technical difficulties with some of my equipment here. But I had to bring this one to you while I had the chance. This is going to be how bad you've been screwed, the paper version. So what we see in front of us here is an array of different banknotes or Federal Reserve notes. And back in the old days, local banks issued their own currencies, and then you had gold certificates, and then when they went to the Federal Reserve System, it went to Federal Reserve notes and then Treasury notes or U.S. notes. So let's go over the $1 bills quickly. This here is a silver certificate, $1 silver certificate. You'll see the top there. If you actually read your money, most of you probably never actually take the time to read your money, but just like a document you're going to sign, you should take the time to read absolutely everything. So, silver certificate. This certifies that there is on deposit in the Treasury of the United States of America $1 in silver payable to the bearer on demand. Okay, so what that means is for every one of these certificates they printed, they had $1 equivalents in silver, which was fixed. And I didn't bother to look it up, but it's something like 0.7734 of an ounce troy, I believe. This certificate is legal tender for all debts, public and private. 1957A. Now let's compare that to our Federal Reserve note. Federal Reserve note, the United States of America. This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. $1. But there is nothing payable to the bearer on demand. This is a unit signifying basically debt. And there is nothing deposited to be used as an instrument. You can't exchange this for anything. Back in the silver certificate days, you could actually get this redeemed for silver pellets from the San Francisco Mint. And the days of gold are long gone. But for this demonstration, it's important for you to know that gold and silver was the currency and coinage up until the 30s, and then they seized all the gold. And when they seized all the gold, after they got it all, they revalued it. And when they revalued it, they basically ripped the entire public off. So they took your gold, which was convertible to $20 at face value, and then they changed it to $35. So they took it all, devalued the gold, and basically fleeced the public. But they also pulled the gold out of the coinage and stopped gold certificates. So there used to be gold certificates that would be just like this, but it would be gold certificate at the top, and then it would be a yellow seal right there. And there was quite a bit of lobbying going on for silver in the currency. Silver actually remained in coinage up until the 70s in some cases. In 1964 is when they stopped making your silver dimes, your silver quarters, and they changed the formula of the $50 to 40% until 1970. And 1970 is when they really changed it all to cupro nickel. And we're going to go over why all that happened, but let's continue and look at these $2 notes. Now the differences here are quite important, and we really need to pay heed to this. Let's look at this one first. You notice the date? It's 1953. We have a $2 note here, but it's a United States note. Take note of that. It's not a Federal Reserve note. This is a United States note, a Treasury note. And then if you look at it, remember this is 1953. The red seal tells us it's a U.S. note. If you look here, this note is a legal tender at its face value for all debts, public and private. Now, this is a United States note issued directly. And the reason it says at face value is because there was an implication in the 50s that to foreign powers, the U.S. dollar was still redeemable in gold. They maintained a status quo of sorts with foreign powers who were using U.S. dollars to placate them, basically. And they said that the U.S. dollar was still redeemable in gold between nations, but not for the population. And then if you look at the bottom, it says the United States of America will pay to the bearer on demand $2. So there's still an implication that this is representing a different store of value and that you could have it redeemed for that different store of value. That's the implication. Now, in the 50s, a regular citizen, that didn't really mean anything to. But the thing you really need to take note of is how they do this gradually over time. They've acclimated everyone gradually over time with these slight changes. And what do I mean by that? Let's take a look at the next note. Now this is in the 60s. And you'll notice they changed the wording here. It just says this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. And then you'll see this here. There is no pay to the bearer on demand. Now, why is that interesting? Because of the date. Well, 63 was the issue they printed. In the time, they changed the coinage and removed the silver from most of it. So, it's also right around the time during the Vietnam War, eventually that status quo gold convertibility was officially closed. France had tried to redeem a bunch of its foreign currency holdings for gold, and it caused too much pressure on the U.S. during the Vietnam War, and they finally removed that nominal gold convertibility. And then we're left with what we have today, which is complete garbage, hocus pocus, Federal Reserve notes, which we're going to go over in future videos. But this is what a $2 Federal Reserve note looks like. And you can see, it says Federal Reserve note. This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. There's no pay to the bearer on demand. There's no implication this is actually representing any other form of value, as with the older notes. So, you know, most people don't notice these things, but you really should read all the financial and legal instruments in your life. And these are financial instruments, people. So take the time to read them. Use your discernment to put this type of stuff together. What they've done over time is they've gradually gave us a BS system and leached all the value out of it. And they've done it one little nibble and step at a time. And it started with the Federal Reserve, and then it went to the Great Depression, which you're told was a grand accident, which is actually set up to force people into these types of changes. Then you talk about the gold seizures. Well, not seizures, but they said you had to turn it in, and holding on to it was a crime. As we all know, some people held on to it. That's how you can still get the old gold coinage today, at a pretty big premium usually, though. And then they slowly changed the nature and wording on these notes over time. They slowly removed anything of value from the coinage over time, and we're going to go over that one in another video. Lost Generation, we're out.